Okay, this next theory is called relational dialectics theory, and for this one, I'm just going to be using this one slide. So for more information, I'm going to encourage you to read and do some research, but I'm going to do my best here. Ooh, there we go. Sorry, to talk about what it means. Okay, so relational dialectics theory. Dialectics, what do we hear there? Dia, two, right? Opposite, opposing. Relational dialectics, right? Two opposing dialectics, two opposing ideas in a relationship. So we have this interpersonal relationship occurring one-on-one, and within that relationship, we are going to look at three specific tensions, but from both angles, both sides, both perceptions of that particular tension. All right, and ways in which those tensions are embedded in our everyday relationships and ultimately create a little bit of conflict. Okay, relational dialectics has typically been a theory that you study in romantic relationships, whether dating, married. You can certainly take a look at dialectics when looking at stages of breakup or falling apart. Perhaps this might be a little enlightening for some of us. And again, look at how these different tensions, opposing sides of the same matter in a relationship really do create sort of conflictual interactions, okay? So, first of all, to get this theory down, researchers listened to hundreds, as in hundreds of individuals talk about their relationships, and they asked them all sorts of research questions like, what were the biggest challenges that you overcame? What were some of the major issues that broke you up? What are the greatest, or some of the bigger problems that you have overcome, and the like? And in order to get this list, the researchers, again, listened to hundreds and hundreds of those people and then themed their answer into these three tensions that you see on the screen in front of you. So those three tensions are as follows. The first one is integration and separation. The second is stability and change. And the third is expression and non-expression. So I'm only going to spend about a minute or two on each, and then again encourage you to look up the research on this as well that I posted through our article for the week. So what is integration and separation? Okay, to best apply this theory, it's going to be a good idea, if you can, to think about a romantic relationship that you've been in. And then when I ask you the questions, think about that question in terms of your relationship. Now, if you've not been in a romantic relationship, then you can go ahead and pick a friendship, and some of these tensions should still be highlighted. You could potentially even choose a family member, like a sibling, or somebody with whom you've experienced a couple of tensions in your past. So, integration, separation. What does that tension look like in a relationship? It is basically that idea of, are we always connected, or are we two individuals who remain separate in our identities, but just happen to go through this life together? In other words, it's looking at a we or a me. So one question I ask the class all the time is if they know that couple where when you talk about one of them, it's almost impossible to not talk about the other. So you mention both of their names in the same sentence. There's even an order to which you mention their names, and if you reversed it, it would sound weird. Or do you know that couple that has been together so long or are simply so inseparable that they just sort of mush into one human form? They're just one thing. And with one, you get the other, and they're never apart, right? Well, this is that idea of connection versus autonomy. In what ways do we stay connected on all levels, and in what ways do we operate as two individuals? Another application of this would be to think about social media, right? Individuals who maybe share joint accounts, or who even share any of their accounts, or those who have decided not to share accounts or become one. Connection and autonomy also you can think about in terms of ways in which the relationship plays out. Do we do everything together, or is it fine to take days, nights, weekends, months to ourselves? Do we always have to know where the other individual is, or is it fine to go ahead and maintain that distance, that separate autonomous identity? The next one, sorry about that, is stability and change. Another way to think about this is, do we like to keep things predictable, Or do we like things to sort of be a surprise, be novel, try something new, for example? And one of the examples that I always give in class for this one is imagine that we have the good fortune of going out to dinner tonight, and where would you go, right? Now, I know for me, you could probably predict where I would go, especially if you knew me well or if you were in a relationship with me, right? I tend to pick the same 2 to 3, maybe 4 places that I want to go out to dinner every single time. Rarely do we wake up in the morning and say, today I'm going to try something completely new, out of left field, and unlike myself. So we can think about that now in terms of a relationship, right? Do you fall into patterns of predictability in the relationship where you do the same things all the time, or maybe you have a routine or a pattern that you like to follow when you call or check in or suggest date ideas, versus really shaking things up and mixing it up again and trying something new? And then what are the consequences of both of those? The last one is the expression or non-expression. And another way that we can think about this is, should we be open all the time with our partners, or are there things that are okay, permissible, to conceal or to not disclose, right? So we're looking at this as the difference between self-disclosing everything and keeping some things private. Again, here's another example that was actually given to me by a former student. A former student said, okay, Tara, so let me get this right. If I'm in class today and I have an ex that texts me and the ex says, hey, what's up? And I don't respond to the text, do I then have to go and tell my partner that today I got a text from my ex? Well, that would be totally up to you, right? And then, of course, that begs the question of what are the patterns of self-disclosure and secrecy and privacy and openness and disclosure that you have with that partner, right? Is it okay, especially if you don't respond, just to say nothing and move on with your day? Or would you go home and say, hey, I just want to let you know I got a text today from my ex. Don't worry, I didn't respond, yada, 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 right? So it kind of, it depends, really, is the answer here. Nonetheless, you can imagine that if you were with a partner whose experience or inclination was on one side of this spectrum or the other, then there could definitely be some conflict, right? So if one person believed in total integration and another person really wanted to still remain separate, that could create a problem. If one person believes that there are absolutely no secrets, no surprises, you tell each other everything, and the other person thought there's some things that's really not a big deal, that dichotomy, that tension then could create some conflict. So again, relational dialectics is a theory that is looking at how communication within these tensions not only creates the relationship itself, its boundaries, its patterns, predictable styles and patterns of communication, but also how it maintains the relationship or eventually tears it apart, really. So that's kind of how that one goes. Again, the reading will tell you more, but let me know if you have questions.